Welcome to the GHT Overland Podcast, where we visit with overland travelers and explorers around the globe, learning from their experiences and enjoying their stories. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. We're from a little city called Washougal in Washington State, known as the entrance to the Columbia River Gorge. Today's featured guests are Ernesto and Taisa.
Trying to find their balance between work and life in Seattle, Washington, with solid careers in place, they decided to leave it all behind and embark on an untethered lifestyle, overlanding the Americas from Seattle all the way through South America. Today, Ernesto and Taisa join us from Buenos Aires. So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Hi.
Hi, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
We are so inspired by your tenacity in tackling an overland trip like this. Fill us in on any blanks on that intro, along with a little about your backgrounds and what inspired an overland lifestyle like this.
Well, my name is Ernesto. I'm originally from Venezuela. I moved to Seattle in 2002 to go to school, design school. After 4 years, I got a job, just worked at a few different companies. Always loved to travel, and about 8 years ago I started thinking about traveling overland. Didn't know that was what it was called back then, but that's when our dream started. Taisa.
And I'm originally from New Jersey and moved to Seattle also in 2002 to be with Ernesto, actually, and worked in garbage and recycling field in Washington State. And I also have always loved traveling. We actually met when I was studying abroad in Venezuela 18 years ago. And I knew that I wanted to continue traveling. Never really thought it would be kind of in a road trip / overland style, but we ended up really loving it.
And how fun is that? And we share the same, well, not really home state if you're from New Jersey, but yeah, so that's pretty cool. So once you decided to tackle this adventure, how long was it before you guys hit the road?
We started dreaming about it 8 years ago. So it took us 3 solid years of saving, planning. There isn't really much you can plan for a trip like this, but getting everything ready, the vehicle, the gear, and saving money. I think it's the key.
So it took some time both for the saving for the trip and then making sure that everything was planned out and you felt comfortable with how you had everything set up, both your plans, gear, vehicle, all that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was a lot of time.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about Sudi.
Sudi's our home on wheels. It's a Toyota 4Runner 2012 that we bought specifically for the trip and outfitted it. It took us like 2 years just to get everything right. Tried a bunch of different things, setups, kind of a slippery slope, like how many things we thought we needed, but then, we were really happy with what we have right now, like the changes that we did, but probably you don't need all of that. But Sudi is a very reliable car. It's a new one. We hadn't had any issues with it. It has everything we need to live on the road.
And where did you come up with the name Sudi?
Well, that was actually Taisa's idea. You want to tell that?
Sure. We were just kind of researching. Well, yeah, we wanted to name the car, and I found that there was a shearwater bird called Sudi that migrated how many miles a year?
Up to 40,000 miles a year. Flies from New Zealand to Chile and can fly as far north as Alaska in a year. And we thought that was pretty cool. Plus, Taisa loves puns. So the whole Sudi name, the car being gray, being all dusty,
yeah.
Sudi.
People have asked us if we were chimney sweeps.
Or firefighters.
No, very good. That's awesome.
I just like the bird.
Well, that's a really cool name. What is the, if you were to think back from when you originally put everything together, planned your trip, okay, we're ready to go, and you hit the road, from now, like what is that one piece of gear that you value the most?
For me, it's my little pack of hard drives where we keep all of our trip documented.
Yeah, and your pictures that you have your photography is just amazing. Those are great pictures.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love taking photos. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it definitely shows. And Taisa, anything for you that's different?
One of my favorite pieces of gear, or I guess the gear that I value the most, is our MSR compact reactor stove. It's kind of like a jet boil. It boils water in 2 minutes, and it's kind of key to my coffee ritual in the morning.
Ah, very good. We can definitely appreciate that.
I want one.
It's awesome.
Anything you originally packed that you now never use?
Yeah. We got our scuba gear. We brought our scuba gear with us and ended up sending it back. We did use it a couple of times, but not enough to hold the pin the entire way down. But for the most part, we have used everything we have. We planned for so long that, but it's still, there are things that we don't use as often as we thought we were going to do. But I would say, yeah, the scuba gear, that was kind of not a very smart thing to bring over.
Probably took up a lot of space, right?
Lots of space. Yeah. It was a 20-liter duffel bag.
Oh, wow.
What are 2 or 3 top destinations that really stand out, with a little detail on what makes them so special, or maybe a fun story about one of those locations?
I think for both of us, Ernesto and I, we loved our experience in Peru, particularly in Huascaran National Park. We climbed to the top. We summited one of the peaks called Pisco, and it was just beautiful. Kind of undescribable feeling. It was, I can't remember how high we ended up summiting, but it was the highest either of us had ever been. So it was total mountain high.
Yeah, in the meters, it was 5,780 meters.
Like 18,000 something feet.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
How long did that climb take you?
3 days.
That's amazing. Wow, cool.
Yeah, it was spectacular, yeah.
I get goosebumps. I want to go.
That takes a lot of training and practice. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
I mean, it's kind of unfair to pick a couple, places, because there are so many, and each country has its own highlight or highlights. But maybe because it was so unique in Guatemala, there's another hike that you do to Twin Volcano, and you hike to a volcano called Acatenango, and you have a view of the twin volcano called Fuego, which is active, and it depends on the time of the year, but about every 15 minutes it's erupting, and you have this nature fireworks show right in front of you, just 2 kilometers away, straight from you, and it's unbelievable. It's like watching a National Geographic sort of documentary, but live right in front of you at night. It's just the rumbling of the volcano, the ash falling on your tent. It's just unbelievable. It's a huge highlight on the trip. It's just beautiful.
That's going to be pretty amazing to be there and to get that feeling of the rumbling, not only in the smells and the visual. That's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah. It's
At that time, it was pretty active. Like every 15 minutes, there would be an eruption. So it was intense.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever hike up to the top of St. Helens?
Yes,
we did on Mother's Day, right before we left on the trip.
Oh, sweet. So I'm thinking that's about a 5% experience, because I remember being at the top there and sitting up there and just feeling kind of that little rumble and hearing all the rocks continually fall, that's got to be about 5% to what you experienced there, right?
It's a different experience. St. Helens, it's gorgeous as well, but it's so different in terms of like seeing a volcano spewing lava and molten rock just falling down that slope. It's very unique.
But in Mount St. Helens, our imaginations like ran wild too, because you're just right at the rim. I mean, that was also spectacular.
Because you're sitting right at the rim, yes. Yeah.
So walk us through your kitchen. What does your average meal setup look like?
We have a rustic outdoor kitchen. No, we cook out the back of the car, basically. We have an ARB fridge and a drawer system with our kitchen supplies right out the back. And we have a propane tank that attaches to our cook partner stove, 2-burner stove, with a drop-down table that's attached to the
swing out gate bumper.
Yeah. And we also have a table and chairs that we sometimes take out and sometimes not when we're lazy.
How much propane do you guys take with you?
We have a 10-pound little propane tank.
And have you been happy with that? Do you find that that's sufficient?
We have never run out of propane, and it lasts months. It's easy to refill. It takes a little bit of planning because of the valve, but all throughout the continent you can find propane. It's just a matter of like having the valves, so you can give it to them. We have refilled our tank in the entire trip 4 times.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
So you're never concerned about running out of propane when you're away from civilization?
No, and we plan ahead. For example, when we were going to get into Patagonia, we knew there was going to be a little bit more difficult to find big cities where we could, scout a place to refill the tank. So our last big city, we said, okay, we need to refill even when we're not empty. And we know that it's going to last us at least 3 months if we're cooking all the time. So it depends, like altitude affects it, if it's very windy too. But yeah.
We also use an app that I guess it's called iOverlander, not only to find camp spots, but it also provides information on where to refill propane. So that's actually been really helpful also for us to plan ahead in which city, for example, we should fill up.
So how is your storage unit within your kitchen?
We have, I mentioned kind of a drawer system. I didn't really give details on that, but we have a Tuffy. We have 3 drawers, Tuffy brand, and they are lined with like a little bit of...
They're carpeted inside.
Kind of, yeah. So we have all the food and spices and stuff in there that's not in the fridge. And so we don't hear anything.
The thing, like in the back of the car, in the back of the truck, we have these drawers that are like pretty tight. I took the measurements and gave it to the company for them to build. And inside, they're so thick that even if there are a few things that rattle, you won't hear them because of the thickness of
steel, right?
Yeah.
So they're steel drawers, but lined with carpet.
Yeah, and and everything else in the truck, it's a little bit embarrassing. Everybody makes fun of us when they see when we open the back doors of the car, because
things fall out maybe sometimes.
Yeah, every time, especially on Taisa's side.
Hey.
But everything's so not neatly, so tightly packed.
Jam-packed.
The
drawers help, though.
There's no room for anything to rattle. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome. Of course. It's okay. Okay, so the secret is just cram everything in there as tight as possible. You're good to go.
Exactly.
Perfect.
No rattling.
It's awesome. What's a favorite recipe you guys have when you're traveling?
So my go-to is this red cabbage slaw. I don't know, you have to be into cabbage, but It's just red cabbage, lime, cilantro, avocado, olive oil, salt, pepper, and then you just mix it together, and it goes great with tacos or rice and beans or fajitas. So I guess that's my favorite.
Okay, I love it. Good. How do you do your planning for groceries, like your minimum supplies to carry, along with any tips you have for our listeners in purchasing fresh meats and vegetables especially when you're in a small village or town?
I think that we do it in terms of like, well, Taisa does most of the shopping, so she should probably be correct me if I'm wrong. But we think in terms of days and meals, right? And how many days we're going to be away from any major urban area. So we think about how many lunches, how many breakfasts, are we going to be backpacking, and obviously how much we can fit in the car, because sometimes we're like really struggling to find a little corner to store a little meal of milk. So it's kind of, but yeah, we
go to large supermarkets and do kind of a big shop. So we kind of really fill up the fridge, and then we'll supplement with fruits and vegetables and small little things like.
We rarely will find ourselves in a situation where when we get to a place and there's no grocery store. It rarely happens.
Yeah, in the Americas, it's really abundant with food and
everywhere. They may not have your favorite
sour cream
or, but yeah, it's more a matter of like saving money, too. Being able to just go to a larger grocery store where that has better prices.
And we don't, we do eat meat, but not nearly as much as I guess we did, because A, to keep it fresh, we don't like to have it in the fridge for too long, and then B, doing dishes, since we don't have a sink, just it gets more complicated. So I would say we only eat meat a few times a week.
Yeah, a couple of times.
Okay, very good. One of the things that we hear quite a bit is people will go shopping and go not shop based on what they want to get, based on meal prep, but they'll go in and get the things that are available and then choose their meal plan based on that.
Right.
If that makes any sense. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, definitely buying what's fresh and seasonal. I loosely meal plan.
Very good. Okay.
How do you do your laundry on the road?
So in Mexico and Central America, we did laundromats, and many times the laundromat was really just kind of someone's home, and it was really economical and convenient. And then the further south we got in South America, we still did laundromats. There were some that were kind of self-serve, but then they got a lot more expensive in Chile and Argentina. So I did start hand washing a bit. And we also sometimes camp at hostel parking lots.
It's easy for us to say because we have so much clothes.
Yeah, we have a lot of clothes.
So we can go like a month and a half to 2 months.
That's not true. I think a month.
Reusing some of our clothes, but before going to a laundromat.
But that's pretty rare. Like, we have too much clothes, we think. So.
Yeah, we are the exception, I think. Like most people have a very small half size, a box of what we have.
Yeah, and I think they usually have to do laundry at least every week or every 2 weeks, but really we can go for about a month.
Well, they don't have all that extra material to pack everything in nice and tight either.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Now, do you guys have like a toilet shower setup, or what are your best tips that you've learned for overlanders when it comes to hygiene when you're traveling?
That's funny. Let's see. So a little bit of background. So I couldn't leave home without taking a shower, and I will feel cranky. This is
I'm
before
with you.
this.
You're in good company.
Yeah, was before the trip. But as you go, you feel like, okay, every other day is fine. But I don't know what's happened to us, man. We our hygiene standards have gone
Way down.
way down. But I
Well,
mean,
we're used to something pretty high.
so that said, you basically get used to it, start getting to, not because there aren't options for you to shower every day, but it actually becomes some of an inconvenience depending on where you are. And there are certain places or certain areas that you basically will be a whole week or near a week without taking a shower.
That's usually like when we're hiking or backpacking. And then I guess the further south we got, for example, in Patagonia, it got colder and colder. And then you get a little lazier, like, I don't really need to wash my hair today because I'm cold or something like that.
Yeah. But to answer your question, we do have a shower. We do have an enclosure, a little toilet thingy. We just don't use it as often. I mean, we would rather wait if we know that we're like 2 days away from a place that will have a shower than showering in the cold weather. Because it's not only because it's cold; it's like it can be really windy. It really depends.
And most campsites, well, if we wild camp, obviously sometimes there's no bathroom at all. But then a lot of campsites also have toilets and showers. And if you really need to, we would stop in a hostel and shower.
Yeah.
So there's always options.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Tell us about your biggest challenge you've had to overcome on the road, whether it was a border crossing or you were stuck or maybe you faced a decision on whether or not to turn around.
I mean, we have been incredibly lucky with our experience on the road in terms of like safety or border crossings, encounters. We follow a set of basic common sense rules, I think. But I think for both of us, the challenges that we faced on the road had to do a lot more with our families and friends
back home
that go through really difficult situations and we're not there to be with them. It's very personal, and it's not only us. I think that it happens to a lot of travelers, like being away for so long, 2.5 years. There are a lot of things that happen, and I think that when you have that connection with your friends and family, and you know that you cannot be there for them, it's a struggle.
And we've also been super lucky because we were able to visit Ernesto's family in Venezuela along the way during the trip, so that was really special. And then I had some really wonderful support from my family financially to fly back for a few events at home. So again, that part is definitely the most challenging, not being there for your family and friends. But like I said, we've been lucky to have that still some connection.
That's really a big emotional challenge when something happens at home and you just want to be so close to them and you can't.
Yeah. That's it put things into perspective. I think that we all do this trip and we think that how wonderful it is, and then sometimes you just forget and you complain about little teeny tiny things, and then there are events that it's just basically
life changing,
but just like how fragile someone's life is, right? And you're here and the next day you can't be. So it just makes you appreciate and look at things in a very different way. I think that when you're away from the daily grind, I don't know, it hits you in the face, obviously, but it gives you the time to think about that. Otherwise, if we would be home, you're there, but then you're back into your rhythm, right? Into your routine, doing the things that you do on a daily basis. I don't know that, I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but
in some ways, we actually can be more supportive to our families from afar because we have the time to communicate with them and to think about how to help them, as best as we can from afar.
Yeah, I think it's just a different level of perspective. So that's super interesting. Okay, very good. Tell us about your process for planning each leg of your trip, not knowing exactly how you do that, if it's more of a day-to-day or if you kind of plan a week or, I don't know, a year in advance. Any particular software or process that you've found that works really well to minimize the need to reroute and that you're getting to exactly where you want to be?
It, for a trip this long in both in length and time, there isn't much really that you can plan ahead. I mean, you could, and some people try to do it, but here's our perspective. I think that when you do that, things tend to become a little bit more stressful because you do have a schedule that need to adhere to. So when we do plan things, I mean, back before we left, I took a stab at, sort of creating a tentative route, which is like, you don't know anything about the country. You don't know those routes. I mean, it's, I soon realized that I needed to get there to be able to have a more realistic plan for the week or for the month. So we, at this point, we don't, I honestly, we don't plan anything but the day off or a week or two prior to moving along. So you can definitely plan for budget. You can more or less calculate the miles, the distances that you're going to be driving, and when you would like to be in a certain place. So you can do that, and then it's it's difficult to put it into words even now because like it's something that so involved that even for us when we have friends and family that say, hey, we would like to meet you guys, and we're like, they like to have at least a couple months of heads up for them to plan it ahead, but we have no idea where we're going to be a week or two from now. So
yeah, so that part is challenging, but we do use certain apps and tools to help us trip plan. So we use, I mentioned an app called iOverlander that includes camp spots. So we'll kind of loosely look at some of our options on iOverlander. We also have Lonely Planet books. So kind of, we check out the book and see some of the highlights there. And we also have a paper map for kind of big picture planning.
Tons of resources. We both are fluent in Spanish, so we reach out to people through social media, Instagram accounts, Facebook, contacts of contacts, friends of friends, and we don't know. Sometimes someone is going to take us to a place that is not on a travel book, and we just make space for that, right? You're just like, yeah, sure.
And those have been some of our coolest experiences and most interesting roads. And
right. Yeah.
But we use mostly right now Maps.me and Google Maps before. It seems like Maps.me works better here.
Well, Google Maps is just because we need connection. But on Maps.me, it uses OpenStreet maps, if that would see. Uh-huh. And so you download your maps ahead of time, and then you can route. At least it's good for knowing distances. The maps are very accurate. I think that those are the best maps that you can actually find in terms of accuracy. They're always being updated. It's and yeah, they're very, very reliable.
And then in the beginning, we also kind of as a backup, we would use, say, Google Maps or Maps.me, and then I would also plug it into our Garmin GPS if it was kind of more sketch, if we weren't, just as a double check.
Yeah, we have different instruments as well. But we use less and less our Garmin GPS.
Okay. Any specific border crossings that stick out to you, and what tips do you have in preparing for them? And if you can, let's really get into this one to give our listeners an in-depth idea of the complexity of crossing international borders, while at the same time that it can be done.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the major concerns for anyone planning a trip like this, right? Like ourselves included. Before we left on a trip, we were like, how do you do that? And the stress of crossing from the United States to Mexico when everybody's going to tell you you're going to get killed, right after you cross the border. So it really isn't that big of a deal.
Well, I'm glad to know we won't be killed as soon as we get to Mexico.
He did say it can be done. I guess you want to be careful of what water you drink. On a serious note, yes, it's all about planning and educating yourself.
This episode of the GHT Overland Podcast with Ernesto and Taisa with Overlanding Americas is so full of good stories and helpful information that we will be splitting this one into 3 episodes for your downloading pleasure. Don't worry, new episodes are released each Thursday. In the next episode, Ernesto tells us some great insightful tips on border crossings and so much more.
You can also listen to us on your Amazon Echo by telling Alexa, play the GHT Overland Podcast. It's a good idea to visit the show notes page on our website at GHToverland.com, click on Podcasts, then select the Overland the Americas episode. All the details and helpful links in the episode are already there for you.
So be sure to send your feedback along with any questions or suggestions to GHToverlandPodcast@gmail.com.
Be sure to check out the GHT Overland Podcast Alexa skill. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this short format weekly snippet that we're doing. And in other news, if you're going to be in the Pacific Northwest, or if you're already in the Pacific Northwest, we are going to be at the Northwest Overland Rally, and that is from June 28th through July 1st. So if you're going to be there, be sure and stop by our, I don't know if they call it a booth or our table. Stop by and say hi. You'll see us. Hopefully you'll see us. We'd love to meet you.
Now, before you race off, it would mean the world to us if you'd share the podcast with a few friends, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Give GHT Overland some love so we can reach as many Overlanders as possible. Passing on priceless experience, knowledge, and stories of Overlanders doing good in the world. Thank you, and we will see you next Thursday over on part 2. Remember, go give us some podcast love with a subscribe, rate, and review. Bye.